Welcome to Sounding Board, a production of Seroptimist International of Novato, whose mission it is to support girls and women, both globally and locally. My name is Freda Kaplan, and my guest is Marny Knowles, the Canine Welfare Program Manager at Guide Dogs for the Blind in Marin. Welcome, Marny.
Hi, Freda.
I would like to start by asking you about Guide Dogs and how it's funded and how many volunteers there are, things like that.
Sure. So we're funded entirely by private donations. And in our puppy raising program, we have over 1,500 volunteers in the 9 western states. We do have 2 campuses, one which is in Marin County in San Rafael, and our other campus is in Boring, Oregon. And between the 2 campuses, we have over 500 volunteers separate from the puppy raising program.
That's interesting. And speaking of puppies, I recall that German Shepherds used to be the only dogs that were used. Is that the case now?
No, we did have German Shepherds as working guide dogs, but currently we use Labradors, Golden Retrievers, and Lab Golden Crosses.
And what is the age of the dog generally?
Generally, the dog is between 1 and 2 years in age when it's receiving its formal guide work training. Yes.
And what does your department, Canine Welfare, do?
So we're a division in the training department. Within the training department, we have several positions. We have licensed guide dog mobility instructors. We have apprentice instructors who are working to earn their degree and their certification to become a licensed guide dog instructor. And then we have another set of staff called Canine Welfare Technicians who provide care for the dogs in the kennel complex in the training department.
What do the volunteers do in your department?
So we have various positions and volunteer opportunities in the training department. So, for example, we have volunteers that come in and they provide dog walking and canine cuddling.
Let's hear a little bit more about that.
Sure. So they have an opportunity not only to take the dogs out of the kennel, they can walk them around the campus. We also have areas on our grounds that you can take the dogs and let them off lead and let them run and play. And then in addition, the other component of that volunteer position includes canine cuddling. And so essentially that would be someone going into the dog's kennel and spending time with the dog in their kennel so that we're bringing something positive to the dog's housing environment.
And are there other jobs that the volunteers do?
Yes, also maybe there are some individuals who, for whatever reason, are unable to actually handle the dogs, but they would like to be around the dogs. So we have a position called Meal Gourmet, and so they can assist us in preparing all the dog's food, making up various forms of kennel enrichment, and helping us with various chores that support our function.
So you're not actually training the dogs in formal guide work, but you do some training, is that correct?
We do, yes. So we're not actually training the dogs, as you mentioned, in formal guide work, but we are definitely, as canine welfare technicians, as well as our department volunteers, anytime that we're handling the dogs or interacting with the dogs, that's an opportunity to reinforce behaviors that we would like and or help the dogs along if they have a particular area that they might need a little bit of improvement.
What are some examples of basic manners?
Sure. So walking politely on the leash.
Of course.
And as well as just some other basic obedience. So sit and down and a stay, and certainly important is a recall behavior so that they'll come back to the handler.
You mentioned at one point to me something about dog puzzles and pooch Pilates, things like that. Are they part of their training?
So we have various dogs under our care. We have dogs that are actively being trained to become a working guide dog, and we also have dogs that have not been selected for our guide dog program. Those are called career changes. So those dogs might be waiting for placement in another adoptive home, and with any of our dogs that we have under our care, we can do various forms of enrichment. So for example, the puzzle that you were just talking about, which I have here. And this is just one example of a puzzle that you could put a food item in the container right here. And you can teach the dog to target this puzzle with its paw or its nose. And then the dog is rewarded by something very tasty. So this is both mentally stimulating as well as physically stimulating.
Do the people that receive the dogs, do they know how to do this?
We definitely provide education to our clients on various things that they could do for their working guide dogs to help enrich their lives as well. So one example that's something that the clients learn is they learn how to provide T-touch to their dogs, and that's a form of massage that they can do, which is relatively easy to do in any location. So for example, if a client is riding a bus and they would like their dog to relax a bit, they can use particular touches on their dog to help encourage their dog to relax.
Oh, that's interesting. And the Pilates, dog Pilates?
Yeah, so Pilates, it's Pooch Pilates, Fit Dogs program, and it can be a conditioning program for dogs that are healthy and sound, and basically it's using various size boxes and pedestals as well as discs that the dogs are walking on and off and over, similar to a Pilates program that you might decide to try.
Wow, that's very interesting. How long do the programs and the classes last?
So we offer 2- and 3-week class programs to our clients, and then after that there's a graduation, and then they go home back to their regular routine, and we also offer follow-up services to all of our clients in the United States.
Do they come back to Marin for that?
No, not necessarily. We can either keep in touch with our clients via phone, but certainly we can actually go to their house and do a visit if that's something that they would need.
Oh, that's a wonderful opportunity. I wanted to go back to you reinforce thinking in a dog. Is that, it's not just obedience that you're teaching them how to actually think. How does that come into play? How do they use that?
So it's really important in terms of a kennel environment. It's very important to keep the dogs mentally stimulated as well as physically stimulated. So there's various ways that you could do that through some of the examples that we have in our enrichment program. For example, we try to work on all of the senses of the dog so that we can actually increase their well-being while they're with us. So for example, we could use scent, whether that be using a food extract, and spray that in the environment to keep the environment novel or enriching. We could also use essential oils as well, again for novel enrichment or as well as to promote a relaxation response.
Wow, these dogs are very fortunate. You once said something about Reiki, is that how you say it? For the dogs?
Yes, so we do have some staff members that are Reiki certified. Reiki. Yes, and that's just it's a Japanese form of healing, which can be hands-on or a distant treatment, and that can promote again relaxation and facilitate healing.
Wow! So there are a number of things that humans might benefit from that the dogs are fortunate to receive for relaxation. You mentioned a bus as one of the examples of when you'd like your dog not to be too hyper. What are some other times that you need to use Pilates for dogs, or that it would be good, or T-touch?
Sure, certainly. So in addition, a kennel environment is not, while we work extremely hard and we have an extremely dedicated set of staff, very skilled staff, as well as volunteers, but anytime that you're in a kennel environment, it's very important to we really strive to keep everything calm and quiet and relaxed as much as we can, because dogs have incredible senses. So it would be very important to use Pilates or any other enrichment form of like food enrichment, or also training. So really every time that we're interacting with the dog, we're always looking at that dog as an individual and trying to meet its needs.
So these dogs are more than trained. They're more than obedience trained. They've got wisdom, I guess. They know what to do in certain situations. How do you teach them that?
So, well, we definitely strive to maximize the use of positive reinforcement. It really helps facilitate a great environment for the dog to be learning. That's true certainly if the dog is actually learning in the formal guide work program, but as well as dogs that might either become an active breeder for us in our breeding program, or a dog that might be career changed and is going to be going to either another line of work or just to a family.
What are some of these lines of work that a dog might do in a career change?
So they could go on to become a search and rescue dog, as well as they could also go on to assist someone with diabetes, so dogs for diabetics. We also have dogs that have entered that program and become very successful working dogs in those other lines.
So they're trained by your program, but they're versatile.
They're versatile. So we purely just train them in the formal guide work training, but we have relationships with other programs. So should a dog become career changed and it might be suitable to go to another line of work, that's absolutely something that our dog placement department or our puppy raising program or our outreach could certainly help facilitate.
And what happens when a dog retires from active work?
Well, certainly the dog could end up remaining with the client, should they choose. Sometimes the retired dogs end up back with our puppy raiser who raised the dog. The client could absolutely also place the dog with friends or family should they choose. But if none of those are options, then our dog placement department on campus will look for another home.
So that's how families can get a dog that's very well trained but isn't professionally working anymore.
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, that's very nice. And I know that people train puppies at home before they come to your program, or is that pre-training?
So that's in the puppy raising program, and essentially they're helping the dog, socializing the dog, and getting the dog ready before it enters the formal guide work training, before it becomes of age. So yes, they're doing a tremendous amount of work.
And sometimes they get the dog back.
Yes, sometimes they do. If the dog doesn't pass the formal guide work program or enter the breeding program, then certainly the puppy raisers would have that as an option.
I've met some of those dogs before, and they're quite wonderful and very nicely trained.
Yes, they're wonderful.
Yeah. Before we talk about some of the other departments, is there anything that I didn't ask you about your department, what you do?
Sure. So a few other things that might be of interest is that we also have lots of various types of toys that we might use with the dog, and these could be either things that the dog does on its own, or it could be something that's interactive. So throughout the day, we really want to ensure that the dogs have the adequate amount of physical and mental stimulation. So we have areas that we can let the dogs play and socialize in small play groups. Dogs can also play by themselves if they would like that. And in addition, we have play structures in our facility, which is really wonderful because then the dogs it can help increase coordination as well as confidence, and just really set the stage for a relaxing environment where that would help them maximize their ability to learn. Yes.
So in addition to the toys, you have actual structures and runs and things for them to get mentally stimulated by.
Absolutely. And we found that, that really, that can help keep them, if they have a low and a nice calm environment, that can really help keep them very healthy.
I see. Are there any of these things that you have here that could be used for that?
Absolutely. So in addition to the puppy puzzle that I was just showing you, we also utilize a Kong toy, and this is something that you can teach the dog. You can start out and making this very easy by putting some dry dog food inside of here, loosely packed, and you can actually interact with the dog and educate them to push it, move it, so that it will dispense treats. As the dog progresses and learns that skill, after that, you can make it more challenging by wetting the kibble, packing it even tighter, and topping it off with something very tasty like peanut butter, and then you could pop it in the freezer. And again, once the dog learns that concept, and they love the treats that it dispenses, they will absolutely empty that Kong toy. So it's really wonderful, especially in a kennel environment as well as a home environment. It's a really nice activity that is both physically stimulating as well as mentally stimulating for the dog.
I've heard about people making ice cubes for their dogs. Do you use that?
We do. So if we have a dog that maybe, we're concerned about calorie content, it's a great treat that's, calorie-free, but what you could also do to make it more enticing is you could drop a few kibble inside of that ice cube, so the dog can actually see the kibble frozen inside the ice cube, and certainly it's a wonderful treat for a hot weather day. Also, you could, if you wanted to make small ice cubes, you could also place this inside of the Kong toy as well.
And what are some of these other things?
So we also have something called Novelty Toy Day, and that's an opportunity for our dogs to engage in a small play group with soft plush toys like I have here. And again, that's a supervised activity. We don't want to promote any destructive behavior or have the dogs ingest anything, but the dogs absolutely love the Novelty Toy Day. Just being able to carry the toy, interact with the toy, and again, just keeping the environment novel and enriching. Something that actually the dogs could do unsupervised would be something by using this Nylabone that I have right here. And this is a really wonderful activity. The dogs can take the time and spend the time with their enrichment bone, and that's something that they could do unsupervised. But again, another activity in their kennel environment to help enrich the environment and keep it interesting. And certainly with the enrichment, the key is rotating all of these things just so that it doesn't become mundane for the dogs.
The Novelty Toy Day, does that happen once a week or how often?
Yeah, we definitely try to keep Novelty Toy Day once a week, again, so that the novelty doesn't wear off.
Yeah.
Yes, and in addition, we're, like I mentioned earlier, we're looking at each dog as an individual and really trying to meet its needs. All of our dogs under our care, we physically look them over once a week. So that's grooming the dog, brushing their teeth, cleaning their ears, and also doing a visual health check just to ensure that they're healthy. And anything that we notice, we would communicate that to our veterinary department. But what's also really nice about that in terms of us identifying health issues in the Canine Welfare Technician program is that we can always have our hands on the dogs. And so they're very accepting of being handled and being touched, which then can be very reinforcing and something that's very easy for our clients to do as well.
So touching them frequently makes them more accustomed to the new owner's touch.
Absolutely. And things that we do with our dogs, all of these skills can be transferred to any new handler that the dog goes to. So we really try to make any experience that the dog has very positive. Even something as simple as getting the dog out to take it for a walk, we want to reinforce good behavior, nice, good, calm behavior. So there's, a certain set of criteria that we adhere to, again, to communicate to the dog to say, yes, that's correct, calm, quiet behavior will get you your walk. It will gain you access to lots of treats, lots of attention, and our dogs are very sociable and they love to be handled, be touched, verbal praise, as well as food reinforcements.
So when you meet a dog, a guide dog, is it correct to say, may I touch your dog or may I talk to your dog, or is that not appropriate?
Well, when the dog is working in the harness, certainly the handler and the dog that team could be very focused on what they're doing. Depending on the situation, someone could absolutely, approach a student and request. That would be my suggestion, is that always ask someone before you want to engage with their dog. And certainly if it's working or it's crossing the street, probably best to wait until they reach a destination where it would be a little more practical.
When you train the dogs, how do you know what kind of a situation they're going to go to? Will they be in a city? Will they be in the country, or with a large family, or an older person, even a kid? How do you know that for the training?
Well, that's something that our instructor staff review closely, and they're looking at each dog individually and trying to assess what environment the dog might be best suited for. And then they're going to make that match and/or communicate with our clients to find out what their normal routine is. So, for example, there might be certain dogs that are ready to go to class, and maybe the training team feels that they would be a wonderful dog to work in a very busy urban environment, and while another dog might be best suited for something a little quieter.
So, if you send a dog to go to, let's say, a senior citizen, and later can they be retrained for a kid? Or you do have dogs that go for children, is that correct?
Well, there are some dogs that possibly there could be a family that has a child that's not of age yet to receive a working guide dog, but they might be considering it. And certainly we do have dogs that are placed in those situations, again, just to be able to expose the family, and so that they could make a decision, and also for that youth, that they could get practice with all of the care that goes along with having a guide dog.
But then if they get a guide dog, is that a new one? Is it a different one, or can it be the same one?
Yes, it would be. It would be a different one. Again, because we are, always considering in terms of the length of service, that potentially the dog could be, needed to be retired too quickly if the dog was issued and it was older in age.
I see. About how long does a dog usually serve?
Around 8 years, but definitely there could be some dogs that are working wonderfully and not retiring, and that's certainly a decision that the client would have, and they could certainly consult with our graduate services department about that.
And these dogs go all over the United States?
Yes, they do. Both United States and Canada, we have clients, yes.
Anywhere else?
There is a few internationally, but primarily the United States and Canada.
That's interesting. Are there guide dog groups in other countries?
There definitely are. Yes, and Guide Dogs for the Blind is internationally renowned. So we also have the ability to help other schools with various resources that they might need. So we can help do some outreach that way.
So those places aren't called Guide Dogs for the Blind, but there are other schools for guide dogs?
Yes, that's correct.
And these dogs aren't only trained for blind people, they're trained for other service jobs, or is that not directly?
So the dogs that we work with, there could be other schools that train dogs for multiple purposes, but our school is specifically just for a working guide dog.
That's very interesting. What are some of the other departments that you have besides your own there?
So we work very closely, the training department works very closely with many other departments. In particular, our canine welfare technicians in the training department, we work very closely with our breeding program, as well as our veterinary clinic and our dog placement program. So we're really in great communication with all these departments so that we can try to help support the other departments in the functions that they're serving within our mission.
About how many dogs are there at any time on the campus?
So in our department, we operate out of 3 kennels, and at the upper end, we would probably have roughly around 120 dogs under our care at any given time.
That's your department or the whole place?
That's just the training department. And then there's another 5 kennels in our facility, and that is the kennel department, and they're working with the dogs who are going to give birth, or they've already given birth, as well as the puppies.
And how can people, can they visit? Can they have tours of the place? What sort of facilities are there for people who want to learn more about it?
Absolutely. So certainly I would always encourage someone and direct them to our website, which is www.guidedogs.com. There's a plethora of information on our website, as well as various links to other resources that people might find helpful. And then certainly we have drop-in tours 6 days a week. So it's a great opportunity for anybody who wants to come visit our facility and learn more about the program.
And they could maybe pet a puppy?
They definitely could see the puppy, and we have a dedicated group of puppy socializers that can outline exactly what is going on with all those puppies before they enter their puppy raising home.
Fascinating. This is all very interesting. I've been aware of guide dogs for a long time, but I didn't know all this about them. Thank you for telling us all this. And I want to remind people to go to guidedogs.com.
Yes.
I should have let you say that. And find out more about it. And it's quite likely that we'll have another person who's directly involved with dog training at Guide Dogs come and speak with us at another show. So I want to thank you a lot, Marny, for talking with us tonight, and tell everyone in the audience that we should go visit Guide Dogs and also watch other segments of Sounding Board, brought to you by Seroptimist International of Novato. Thank you.